Okay. You ready? You ready?
I'm ready.
You pumped? Okay.
Do I need to jump around like you are?
We'll do our pre-show warm-up.
I'm like Rohit Sharma.
Standard fist bump.
Okay.
Shadow chest bump. Dick Weller high five.
What's that?
Hello and
See, it's the timing. I expected the hello like half a second earlier.
hello and welcome to the good, the bad, the ridiculous for the second last day of this series. We're on the home run.
One more day to go. One sleep away, yay, from actually sleeping.
Did you fall asleep while anyone batted today?
No, because I passed out last night. I slept for a long time.
At DR0048, Daniel Rodriguez nominates good. SIRAJ getting 5 wickets in an innings, well deserved after what he has been through. And we all know what that is now, everything he's been through. But what a beautiful moment it was to see him hugging Jasprit Bumrah at the end. Did you see that? That was Jasprit Bumrah, who would desperately have loved to have been out there on the Gabba leading this attack. And instead, it's been this young man who has not just taken wickets, but the way he's actually tried to lead out there, talking to the other bowlers with his vast amount of Test cricket experience. That was kind of like the perfect way for his own personal story to end. We still don't know how the series is going to end, but on a personal note, he deserves to be a massive star in India, and I think he's certainly won a lot of fans in Australia, and not just because he has fantastic hair.
That's
Top Knot was back today.
You know, he's learning, the young man's learning. He'll learn eventually that when it's humid, it's actually a better idea to wear your hair down and not tie it up. He'll learn, don't worry. And what do you mean by he's not the most experienced? He has 3 times more experience than most of those playing today. Yeah, so he is very experienced. And what a moment that was. I think for me, well, there have been so many moments during this crazy tour, this amazing series. But that moment just summed it up, right? Like with him and Shardul Thakur both on 4 wickets. He just had to be Siraj. And, I was told by one of the coaches that in the first practice session that he attended at Blacktown, long time ago, after his father's passing, the coaches put an arm around him and said, "Tere saath tera pitaji ka dua hai. You will take 5 wickets in a test match here," which translates well to, you have your father's blessing with you. He's smiling down at you. You will take 5 wickets. And that's what happened. And you know that moment when he just pointed up in the sky, he was saluting his father, and just the way he walked off, every Indian cricketer waited for him. And that hug to Jasprit Bumrah, he just right now in the Zoom call, he said, "I really miss Jassi Bhai." I asked him about being the senior bowler. He's like, so he had told me, whatever he had told me, I was passing it on. And he was literally being Jassi Bhai, Jasprit Bumrah out there in the middle. Like, it's such a great story about such a nice man, such an honest, frank young man. I don't think Australia will ever forget the name Mohammad Siraj, and for all the good reasons.
Aditya Narayan nominates ridiculously good Rishabh Pant singing Spiderman to welcome Tim Paine to the batting crease. I did actually hear him singing that, and it's possibly one of the weirdest things I think I've heard a wicketkeeper singing or saying.
I guess it's Rishabh Pant. He's always saying something or the other, and I'm pretty sure he wasn't welcoming Tim Paine with that song, because if you listen to the whole clip, he's actually talking to it can't be Washington Sundar, because you could see that he was speaking to Washington Sundar only in English. More fuller, bowl more fuller, he kept telling him, or he kept telling mid-off to pass on his messages. So it must have been to one of the guys close to him, because he said, if you listen to the whole clip, he says, "Aap na ऐसा आप वेब फेंकिए ऐसा उंगली करके and then he starts singing the Spiderman theme song, which I grew up on, Mel. So when we used to get all these English cartoons and TV shows in the early 90s and even till the mid 90s, it was all dubbed in Hindi. Giant Robot and Spiderman, and so of course all the theme songs were also in Hindi. So he was singing Spiderman, तूने चुरा लिया मेरा दिल का चैन, which translates to
Something about you've got a piece of my heart.
Stolen my heart.
Stolen my heart. There you go. Well, it's a fair bet that Tim Paine doesn't know enough Hindi to actually understand.
Yeah, I don't think.
Maybe what he was saying was that my hands are, so referring to the fact, maybe he was saying his hands are sticky now like Spiderman's hands, so he can take catches, which he did today pretty well. At RM Sompura nominates as ridiculous. Pat Cummins surviving an elbow injury from that crack. He actually didn't come out at first when Australia came out to field
First over, yeah.
for that first over, and I actually thought, oh, hang on, is that? Don't tell me we've got another one who's got a crack on the elbow, because we saw what happened to Muhammad Shami and then even Rishabh Pant. The cracks are pretty interesting, I guess, but just everyone's talking about them now, aren't they?
Remember what we were speaking about yesterday about who's been writing these scripts? Someone who's high. It's a high series. Not
The
surprised.
series is high.
It is. The series is high. Not surprised that everybody gets excited at the first mention of crack.
Oh, see, that makes sense, because early on in the test, everyone was talking about grass.
Yes.
You go from the grass, so you see, that's what happens in this world. People start on the wacky backy and then they move on to the wacky cracky.
It's almost a promotion. Like, it's like a graduation that
No, it's a spiral downhill.
some of us, without naming anyone or pointing fingers at anyone, has been through. Again, kids,
Yeah.
don't do drugs.
Live a clean life.
Bad idea.
Steer away from the wacky backy and the wacky
Be
cracky.
like Mel and me in 2021 is all I'll say.
At Duddle Yash nominates ridiculous. Every team should learn from the Australian tale. 40 to 50 odd runs they add are very valuable. Now, there's been a lot of criticism of India not being able to bowl out the Australian tail, or tails in general, overseas in particular. But those runs today, well, first of all, Pat Cummins finally, after looking really streaky, he actually got some more runs and was not out. So maybe that would be really, really good for him after a fairly poor run with the bat. But those runs that Australia added today with their tail, they could end up deciding the series. Genuinely, couldn't they?
They could, because when the tail sort of came together, Australia was still around 270, or the lead was around 270. That would have been a slightly tricky target for Australia. I know there were some Australians in many commentary boxes who felt 230, 240, dangle the carrot. But you know what I told them? The way India have been playing this series, if you dangle a carrot, they'll snatch it and make carrot halwa with it. So
I thought about playing a drinking game today where I had a drink every time someone said you got to be prepared to lose to win. But if I had, I would not be sober right now.
what do you mean by if you had? Now it explains everything. You've been a little wacky this evening, but there you go.
Okay, have one beer. At Raz Al Ghul 18 nominates ridiculous. The competition between Siraj and Thakur to be India's next inline pacer. They are edging Yadav out, surely. Well, what they're doing is they're making a great case for this pool of pacers that will put pressure on the incumbents for sure in the way that they've bowled, and with the injuries that are still about. I just think it's massively exciting for India to have so much bench strength.
And this is not even the, like, you know, when you talk about talents, the future of Indian cricket, people generally don't speak about Siraj or Shardul Thakur. They speak about Kamlesh Nagarkoti, Shivam Mavi, Kartik Tyagi, and all these new names that pop up from under-19 World Cups and IPLs, and so they should. Mohammad Siraj and Shardul Thakur has almost been a journeyman of sorts, not in the actual meaning of the word, but he's been around first-class cricket for so long. And his test career he would have thought was over after those 10 balls, unfortunately. But it's just another one of those dream stories that have occurred on this tour when he's come back from nowhere, made his second test debut of sorts. I think that's what it must have felt like for him. And yeah, I mean, Siraj, like we've spoken about, has led the attack, and it was actually, like we said earlier, sweet that both of them are on 4. And someone tweeted it out. Very, very good point. Shardul Thakur looked so happy that Siraj was the one who took the wicket. The way he took the catch, he celebrated, he hugged them. It was really, really good to see. And now India are spoiled for options. Absolutely spoiled for options.
And let's just think about that for a second. They're here in Australia playing against Australia, and we're talking about the wealth of riches that India has in pace bowling. Let's go back a few years. Can you imagine that conversation?
No way. Not to this extent for sure. I mean, it's been good for the last 10, 12 years, but they're sitting on 12 or 13 who might be ready to play Test cricket at any time. Imagine having that kind of a bench.
At SIRAJ 1680 nominates ridiculous. Indian bowlers warned for intimidatory bowling against tail enders. What about Stark and Cummins all along in this series? Ridiculous double standards.
Controversial double standards. I guess it's one of those things. From a very subjective view, if you're an Indian cricket fan, I'm not surprised you feel that way, and you should feel that way. But if you look at it very objectively, what Bruce Oxenford did today was follow the rule book, which says that you are allowed to bowl 2 legal bouncers in any over, and a legal bouncer is any bouncer which is below the head and above the shoulder, anything below the head, in between the head and shoulder. But if you bowl one more than that, you are supposed to be no bowled. And do you want them for intimidatory bowling or not? Well, it's really up to the umpire. I don't think the one thing Stark and Cummins and Hazelwood, yes, they bowl a lot of short pitch stuff, but they have not technically bowled that third bouncer. So they've been more armpit. They've tried to break the hand, if anything. And so it's one of those things. But this will happen more and more till we have neutral umpires. We don't go back to neutral umpires, and that will come only with the vaccine and the end of bubbles.
I don't actually think that the umpires are biased.
No.
I don't think they are. I just think that once you're professional and you've got all those eyes on you, you don't do that. But what happens is that anything that goes one way or another that can be perceived that way, and the perception is probably what changes it. At AB Cricket 19 nominates bad. Paine deciding not to declare despite the weather around and series on the line. Were Australia worried about the World Test Championship points they'd lose if they lost, and were prepared to let India retrain the Border Gavaskar Trophy to get points for a draw? What do you think about that?
Yes, I mean, especially the way Pat Cummins started when he was 2 of 16 balls before that first rain break. I was thinking along similar lines, because Cameron Green also took so long. I'm not saying that they're playing for a draw, but there was this massive fear of failure. And look, it is about points for that Test Championship, but it is also about not wanting to lose a Test series here to this Indian team. It will not bode well for Tim Paine or this team management. I'm not saying there will be changes, but it's a very bad look against a 7th string Indian bowling attack, and all these injuries. It won't look good. People will jump on them. So maybe that was playing on their mind because they didn't go for the Indian bowling, but that's been the story of this tour or this series. Australia have never been able to dominate India for too long.
Well, we said that whenever they've had the advantage, they haven't been able to put their foot on the throat. I'm not good. I don't have anything. I don't have a balcony to throw you over or some water to push you into.
You already hurt me, slapped me in the face.
I'm Australian. The World Test Championship thing is interesting because Australia's probably, I think they've talked about that more than almost any other international test team.
Tim Paine,
he's been talking about that a lot for a long time. So that obviously has been something that they wanted to. They're still on top of the table at the moment, but it could all change depending on what happens now. And that series in South Africa becomes really big. The other thing about, if they were to lose this test, that would be the Gabba record that is always spoken up massively in this country. For that to be lost, man, people in Queensland, forget Australia, people in Queensland would go absolutely feral over that if they lost at the Gabba. That's a long way off. Australia could win this. It could be a draw. India could, I'm not putting anything aside because we know that this series is crackers.
And for all you pro wrestling fans out there, if this India beat Australia here, it won't be Brock Lesnar ending Undertaker's streak at WrestleMania. It'll be like one of those jobbers. It'll be like Brooklyn Brawler or someone like that ending the Undertaker's streak. Just think about it when you go to sleep tonight.
What was the goodest thing about today?
Just the moment when Siraj looked up, thanked his father, and he said it in the press conference as well. He knew his dua was with him, and it certainly was with him, and it will be with him for the rest of his life. One of the best moments of the tour for me.
And what was the baddest thing about today?
There aren't too many bad things. I think the rain just came at that last bit, came at the wrong time, because this game is beautifully set up. If India had batted around 15 overs, maybe they would have lost the wicket. If not, Think about it, right? 300 runs to chase down on the last day, 10 wickets or 9 wickets in hand would have made it even spicier. But it's spicy as it stands. So for me, that the timing of the rain was bad.
And the most ridiculousest thing of the day.
Shardul, Mayank Agarwal, being Bangalore boy, must have seen a lot of Leander Pace and Mahesh Bhupati deciding to give Shardul Thakur the chest bump. Then Shardul Thakur spent half his life in a local train traveling from Palghar to the city. He knows in a crowded train, like one of you tweeted, when someone jumps, what do? You shoulder charge them. So I don't think Shardul Thakur expected that. Expected a Pace Bhupati. So yeah, he just kind of like a shoulder bumped him. Yeah, so Mayank Agarwal, the Leander Pace, Shardul Thakur, the Mahesh Bhupati. There you go.
I don't know what that means, but it was just the look. It was the look on Mayank's face when he's like, yeah, and went for that, and then just got a shoulder in return. That was my favourite ridiculous moment of the day. So well done, you got it right for once. Thanks for taking part.
There you go.
Oh my gosh, there's only going to be one person who wins this battle.
Oh,
See you
no,
tomorrow.
no.